Hello BookTube, hello book friends, welcome back to the channel and another video. As you can probably tell from the title of this video, this is all of the Novembers. So non-fiction November, novelisation November and Doctor November. And this is also a catch up on my Read What You Own challenge to bring you up to date on where I am at the moment. But this is all of the things that I've been reading this week, and I've been ticking those November boxes. So let's start with another Judge Dredd omnibus. This is the Complete Case Files 14, and this one's a little bit different. Two reasons. One, it's all in colour, so it's one of the later, I say later, more recent sets of stories, and also it is in its entirety a complete story, although obviously it was serialised over several weeks and months indeed, but this one, this is a more recent one. I don't want to spoil it if you're into reading these, but quite enjoyed this. It's probably not as much as I enjoyed the one I read last week. I think because that was, although it was stories over several weeks in some cases, there were quite a lot of them. Whereas this is, as I say, this is one story spread over several weeks. So it's, there's an element to it which is a bit samey at times. Anyway, that's Judge Dredd. Then I hit the novelisations. Sorry, I'm just going to plug my computer in because my camera's just faded. Anyway, I hit the novelisations quite hard for a couple of books, quite short books, because that tends to be the nature of novelisations. Now, before there was Denzel and before there was Queen Latifah, there was Edward Woodward, and he was the Equalizer, and this is novelisation, I think, of the first couple of episodes of the first season. I don't think there are many novelisations. I've got two of these, and I think there was only ever kind of two produced. I don't think there were any more after that. But yeah, this was a fun read. I remember this series when it first aired in the kind of mid to late 80s, I think it was. And Edward Woodward, was an English actor. He passed away, I can't remember when, probably early 2000s, I would guess. And he was kind of the calm, suave Englishman, bizarrely working in the CIA, which I never quite got my head around, but then became a private security consultant, the Equalizer. And what was let me have a look, see if I can find it. Oh yes, this was his newspaper ad, because back then that's how you got work, you advertised in newspapers. Got a problem? Odds against you, call the Equalizer. This was a fun read. I really enjoyed this, and I will read the other one. It's up in the stacks, because it's novelisation November, and why not? The second novelisation I read was one of my favourite Disney movies of the kind of again late 70s, early 80s, I would guess. And that was The Black Hole, and this is the proper movie novelisation, because it's got the chunk in the middle with photographs from the movies. This was very much Disney's attempt, I think, to catch up with Star Wars, because this was released after Star Wars was in cinemas and realised how successful that had been, and they produced The Black Hole as a kind of Star Wars, to build on that market and get some of the audience. It's a novelisation by Alan Dean Foster, who is fairly famous for doing kind of movie, particularly science fiction novelisations. So yeah, this was a fun read, and I've got the video, I've got the film on DVD somewhere, so I might dig that out and watch it again, because I really enjoyed this. This was good fun. So that was my 2 novelisation Novembers. And then moving on to non-fiction November. I need to turn the page in my notebook, because I'm keeping track of how I'm doing with the Read What You Earn challenge, and that's the only way I can keep track of where I've got to with my kind of weekly catch-ups as well at the moment. So yeah, non-fiction November. I mentioned this book, I think it was in one of the tag videos I did last week. This is The Long Night. It's by an author called Steve Wick, but it's about William L. Shirer, who was primarily a journalist, newspaper journalist, but latterly radio journalist as well, during the Second, or prior to and during the Second World War, for what he's most famous for. As you can see, there's a picture of a certain German leader on the book cover as well, and this is very much the kind of story of him before, during and after covering the Second World War. And this is more about him and what was going on at the time than excuse me, than the events themselves. I've said before in a previous video, this is this kind of conflict journalism, and journalists and artists and poets are something that really interests me. And I've read, Shirer wrote probably the kind of, at the time, definitive history of the Third Reich. So it's the rise and fall of the Third Reich, which is a book that I've read and found very hard reading, but I think it's a book that probably everybody should read. And he also wrote, he wrote a diary, and he published that sort of after the event, and that was very much his time when he was based in Berlin. But this is much more about him and his wife and their daughter, and what happened to him kind of after the war as well, when he was, no longer the kind of Berlin correspondent. He was, back in the States. So really enjoyed this. This was a really good read, and also a really good read from an author who, in the kind of afterwards, said he didn't really. He was not a historian, not really a biographer. He just, a bit like me, I guess, was fascinated by Shirer and what was going on in his life at the time. So yeah, this was a really good read. Really enjoyed this. Recommend this if that's the sort of thing you're also interested in, that kind of time period, or the as I say, conflict journalism. Then yeah, this is well worth a read. And then finally, and I don't have a cover for this one, so I'll have to stick it up here or wherever, was a bit of a comfort read. I needed that was quite hard going, and I needed a break, so I read a Craig Thomas novel, one that I've not read before, I don't think, or at least if I have, I don't remember reading it, and this was A Hooded Crow, which is an Aubrey and Hyde novel. I think it's the 7th in the series, and I've been working my way through that series. I think I've got one more on my Kindle that I own, so if I read that before the end of the Read What You Earn challenge, I won't have any more to read until the challenge is over. But yeah, that was a really good read. Not the best in the series so far. I think the previous one, The Last Raven, was better. It certainly was, had me more on the edge of my seat than this one did, but it was still good. Still enjoyed it. It was brilliant book. And that's my kind of Dr. November pick, and I think there'll be a bit more Dr. November as well. And then now a couple of books that I've got 2 books on the go. One, another non-fiction book, which is the Book of the Raven, and this is all about ravens, crows, rooks, and it's basically folklore, stories, photographs. So there's different bits and pieces. So and says magpies, and as you would expect, there's quotes from things like Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven and so on. So yeah, I'm quite enjoying that bit of non-fiction. And then the final book, which I might be able to get the cover up for. Let me just see if I can get this to work on the old Kindle. It's Through a Darkening Glass, and I can't remember the name of the author, so I need to look that up as well. So yeah, it's Through a Darkening Glass by R.S. Maxwell. So there you go. And this is as far as I can tell, it's more of a mystery novel than a crime novel. It's set in the Second World War, and that's about all I know at the moment. It was something that's been on my Kindle for a while, so I, in my happy scrolling, as I like to call it, I've been picking stuff that's been sitting there for a little while. So I don't know much about it, and I'm only like 20 pages in, so I can't really tell you much about what's going on. But yeah, this is my kind of fiction read at the moment. Quite enjoying it. We'll see. It's a bit early to tell, really, I guess, at sort of 20 pages. But yeah, this is good. So yeah, that's part of my, as I say, Read What You Own challenge. So where am I with my Read What You Own challenge, I hear you ask? Well, A Hooded Crow, the Craig Thomas novel, was my 12th book as part of the challenge. So if I finish a Darkening Glass, then I'll be over halfway there, because I'm trying to do 25 books before I buy any new ones. How's it going? I think it's going quite well, actually. I haven't bought any new books. I've been tempted, but I've managed to resist. I don't think I'll specifically carry on past 25. And by that I mean I'm not going to say I'm going to do another 25. But I think I might just carry on trying to focus on what I own. And if I do see a book, that I like, then I will allow myself to buy it. But I'm going to try and focus on the 25 and then stop, but keep the good elements of the challenge, if that makes sense. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, that's it, I think. Don't think there's anything else. If you have been, thank you for watching, and I'll speak to you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.